Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Use code DNVR when you sign up for a new account to get amazing odds boosts every single day. We're not quite into the mimosas yet. We got a couple beers. We'll get to the mimosas soon. Don't worry about that. Avs taking on Dallas in the matinee in Dallas. Noon start. You love to see it. They'll be done well before the Super Bowl, so you got that going for you. Yeah, no, the bar staff downstairs are still getting everything pulled together, so I didn't want to be like, could you get me some champagne and some OJ?
So needy, Jesse.
Yeah, I know. So we will have the Mimos coming, but for now, they'll be on the post game. Don't worry.
Bougie of you.
Yeah. Went with the black can. It looks more sleek. For now, obviously, the big, if unsurprising news, Nathan MacKinnon back in the lineup. The Avs forward core, at the very least, is at full strength for the moment. Blais,
what the fuck?
Is any team even close to the Avs' top 6 forwards in this league?
Well, I mean, if you talk to the Leafs fans, the Leafs have the best line.
I think you look at Toronto, you look at Tampa Bay, you look at Florida, and then you take a peek and acknowledge that Carolina has a pretty good group too. But when you're talking about a full top 6, after that, you love what Calgary's top line has done, but what's their
the depth goes away pretty quick.
Yeah, like there are some guys who have done some things. You know, Mangiapane is having the most predictable breakout ever, but you're talking like some really like a full top 6.
It's real tough to compete with Kadri and even Nichushkin and Burakovsky there.
Yeah, Burakovsky, I've said before, at one point, I don't think it's true anymore because he's been cold for a while, but at one point, Burakovsky would have been the leading scorer on like 5 or 6 teams.
Yeah.
And he was like Colorado's like 7th guy, and you're just like, huh.
But on the Avs lineup, you call him streaky.
Well, and like,
and that's the player he is.
Scoring is streaky for most players.
Yeah, sure.
The Avs have just watched 4 guys this year, 4 forwards, and 2 defensemen play at a point per game pace where they score every fucking night. So you're just like, oh.
Drew Doughty in last year's Stadium Series put it best. I don't know if you guys have watched that. It's like a 13-minute like mic'd up thing from the Stadium Series, and he's sitting there on the bench. Drew Doughty goes, "How did this team have so many pretty good players on their team?" and like I think that's 100% true. That even Drew Doughty, he's not what he once was, but at one point one of the best defensemen in the NHL in the world. And he sits there and he's like,
very likely going to the Hall of Fame.
Right. And he steps back and goes, this NHL team is different than almost any other that we play. They have more players because everyone, like, this, Blais, every hockey player thinks everyone else sucks, to their equivalent, right? And for Drew Doughty to sit there and go, no, this team's loaded with a bunch of guys that I would consider pretty good. That kind of just solidifies it right there. When you have that respect from other top-tier NHL players that your lineup is deep enough that it catches their attention.
I love that it's a compliment that Drew Doughty would call other players.
Pretty good.
Pretty good, yeah. How do these guys have so many pretty good players on their team? Yeah.
I love his like high-pitched squeaking Mickey Mouse bullshit.
If he doesn't tell you fucking suck, you're doing pretty well.
Enjoy your 5 minutes in the show.
Yeah, Aaron has the right idea here. What better Super Bowl appetizer than DNVR, mimosa, and Avs hockey?
Dude, I'm saying.
Can
we do this every Super Bowl?
That would be sweet.
This is the only way that you're going to get me to care about a Super Bowl that the Broncos aren't in.
I've got to apologize to Brandon. I reached for the robe, but I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that today. Yeah. I think we have another afternoon road game coming up here soon.
Next weekend,
it's
and then there's a couple more after that.
They were like, okay, we need to reschedule all these games. They're like, here, 1 p.m. start.
All
the
players
games.
love it. Sweet.
I was talking to my dad, and he goes, "Why are they playing at noon?" I was like, "Super Bowl. Check the NHL schedule. Nothing starts past like 2 p.m. Mountain Time."
Yep.
Like
they know
the mortal fear the NHL has of running up against a big football slate.
Well, I laughed because whoever the marketing, I don't remember his name, the marketing guy is for the NHL. The All-Star weekend was in Vegas the same weekend as the Pro Bowl, and he was like, "We worked very closely with the NFL to make sure no events were overlapping." And it's like, you give them credit because at least they know their audience. They know that you're not going to compete with NFL events.
Understand.
Do you think though for the Pro Bowl? I
think when you're talking about All-Star, NHL All-Star versus NFL,
the Pro Bowl also had their like skills competition stuff going on around
the people want the robes.
We watched at our place, we were watching the skills competition before it started. NFL players were playing dodgeball.
Dude, they played the Pro Bowl two-hand touch. Like at least the NHL All-Star game, like the rules are still technically.
Yeah.
I mean, they did 2 offside reviews. Like they take the rules a little too seriously.
Worst part.
crazy.
Yeah, that was the worst.
That was easily the thing from the All-Star game that needed to be like, just stop it.
Well, it was funny a couple years ago when they.
It was funny when they like leaned into it and
Yeah.
like, everybody had a good time with it.
And Wes
this
McCauley,
wasn't
yeah.
remotely funny. This was like the NHL being like, we're very serious.
Well, because I think it was the second offsides that they took back in the All-Star game. It was one of the ones that everyone hates where it was offside by
a
this
millimeter.
much. And it's
Yeah.
like, dude.
Why are we doing
Did you see
this?
the person on Twitter that was like, they should have a new event where basically you have to decide if it's goalie interference or not. Players have to figure out, is it or is it not goalie interference?
You have a
Because
panel
no
of
one knows.
judges of NHL players sitting there with yes/no cards.
Actually, no, what would be even better is a panel of NHL refs just to see how many differing
This is
opinions
what
you get
this
from
is
the
what I'm
actual
saying.
officials.
You have the players do yes/no, and then on the other side, you have the
the
officials.
yeah.
You have the officials giving their rulings, and it is just like, this is the problem.
And you do it like high school where you have like the dividers so they can't see what each other's guessing. It ends up being an exact 50-50 split.
Oh my
Yeah, that'd
god.
be great.
Except the players would always be, regardless, 100%. Nope, that was clean. We should be allowed to do
Yeah,
that.
you'd have to have 2 players and 2 goalies
Yeah.
on the panel.
We're very excited to talk about the Stars game today. We're talking about All-Star game again.
I mean, let's get in,
All-star. We're getting there.
get into the Avs side here first. Their forward core, at least for the second time this year, is actually at truly full strength.
Yeah.
They have every forward available to them.
all of the guys on day 1 of the season that they would have said, we want this guy in the lineup.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, this is. I keep looking at this season, these lineups, as during preseason, is this something that we penciled in, right, as a possible combination? Obviously, Abe Kubel comes in after the start of the season, so
Sure.
a little bit of an asterisk there, but
Yeah.
that top 6, top 9.
He just takes Sampo Ranta's job.
Right.
Like,
You know, that top 6, that top 9, this really is what I know I wasn't around for the full preseason, but I was even on a preseason show. This is the group that we talked about.
Yeah.
This is that group that is deep, that does have that scoring depth, that is dangerous when all 9 guys are going. I mean, that's a very, very dangerous top 9. And you have some of those guys that if they were on an Avs team from 3 years ago even, are probably playing top 6. You send, Avs fans are very hard on JT Compher. We talk about him. We've really settled into this version of the Avs, and we talk about you need more. That guy probably plays in the top 6 on 14, 15 teams in the league. I'm not saying he should, but like this is a very good group.
Number might be closer to like 6 or 7.
I think you'd be surprised. I think you'd be surprised at how many teams would talk themselves into him being able to play in that
I think
top
plenty
6.
of teams.
I mean, the Avs were trying to do it 2 years
give
ago.
him 5 games in the top 6.
Right.
And then go,
Well, so and that's kind of I agree 100%. And that's kind of my point is like, there's a lot of teams that'd be like, what are you talking about? He's a top 6 guy, and it's like, no, he's the perfect 3rd, 4th line guy. And the Avs are in a position where they know that, we know that. You don't have to mess with all that other stuff because you are that deep up front, and that's the group that we get to see today. For at least the start of the game. I think the last time we had this conversation, someone got hurt like 5 minutes in.
Yeah,
So
stop it. Let's stop talking about it.
Yeah, they made it 1 full period last night.
yeah.
So it's a little bit rough on that front. But it's certainly a team that has not had any issues scoring this year has somehow, they continue to feel more dangerous than they have.
I mean, you look at the game against Tampa Bay where you're like,
The team
Those
was
teams are
lighting those dudes up.
they were
Yeah.
they were on even footing. They're missing their best player. Like they are the ones with the lineup deficiency, but neither team had played in the exact same number of days. Like everything was even across the board except no MacKinnon. And
they dropped 47 shots on that.
Right. And the Avs like
That first period was dominant.
They outside of the last 3 minutes of the second period and the last 4 minutes of the third period, when it was like 1 goal, like protect 1 goal lead time, that was Colorado's hockey game.
Agreed.
Like they dictated pace,
sure.
and even when it got geared down, all of it benefited the team. It always benefits the team that's in the lead.
Right.
That's always their game.
And even that last, 4 minutes, Tampa Bay was buzzing, but the Avs I thought did such a good job structurally that it
what
never
was dangerous?
really felt super in jeopardy.
What was dangerous?
Outside
like,
of-
where like the scariest moments were when they would just blindly throw a puck at
from the blue line, yeah.
and just like they're just hoping that it just hits stuff.
And you
goes
live
in.
with
Right.
that as the Avs for sure.
Like it's the same thing that happened when the Coyotes tied the game. It's the same thing that happened when the Wild
nonsense
tied the
bounce
game.
just goes in.
They're
for
just
them, yeah.
they're just trying to get. They're
Pucks in
trying to
net.
get a bounce. They're trying to get it. They're just hoping that some schoolyard bullshit goes their way. But otherwise, like Colorado played a great hockey game.
Yeah, no, I
And you just want to see, okay, they got up. They've shown that at home they're going to be a problem for anybody this year. But on the road, can they, and we talk about this with Dallas all the time, they can't win in Dallas.
They do struggle there.
Under Jared Bednar, they've won seriously, it's 5 times in 6 years.
I do want to
in
ask.
Dallas. They don't win there.
I do want to ask you, Blais. I know you have intimate knowledge of breaking your face.
Oh yeah,
Jesus.
It was super fun.
What's reasonable? Is MacKinnon 100%? Is he good to go? Or
I mean, now that it's been how many weeks now?
it's been 2.5, 3 weeks
And
now.
all the things that they shoot into your face, he'll be fine.
His
Fine.
nose looked. I was surprised, given how
Yeah.
jacked it was right after it happened. His nose looked pretty good.
I mean, you're talking, that was what? The
It's almost 3 weeks ago.
Bruins game?
Yeah.
Almost 3 full weeks ago.
Like, it's been a while now.
Yeah.
It will never be the same though. Like my sinus ripped, so like I can still feel it. Like it sucks.
I mean, I
Deviated
don't
septum
care.
life?
Yeah.
I don't care if that dude sounds like a train whistle when he sleeps. Want to know? Is he gonna feel the effects of it when he's on the ice?
Yeah.
You know, like-
watching
think he
him,
will.
watching him live, just at practice and morning skates and stuff this last week, he's looked good to go. Like he doesn't seem like he's struggling to move around. Doesn't seem like he's struggling in drills. Obviously, you can't simulate game situations,
Sure.
but I honestly do. I think he's looked pretty ready to go for a
Yeah.
few days now. I think if you're talking end of the season, you're fighting for a spot, something like that. I think he would have played.
No, he certainly would have played
he would have
against
put
Tampa.
he would have put
Yeah.
a cage on and
if
just win.
if that was a playoff game, he's
Yeah.
playing.
So
like,
I do
very different, and we've talked about that. There's this
The Avs have the pad.
Ocean.
Yeah.
of space in the standings has given them the freedom to be overly cautious.
rush
and
anybody,
with
yeah.
every injury that they have.
Yeah.
Like Bo and Byram just leaves the team, and they're just like, "You just let us know, big dog." Yeah. Like they have there's no urgency from them right now on any injury front because they're just like.
Because they have
Like-
70 points.
Well, winning
Well, like
fixes everything.
altitude showed a thing a few minutes ago at the start of the show, which is why I was looking off screen and saying, "LOL, what the fuck?" Because they showed if the season ended today, and there's only 2 teams in the West that have hit the 60-point threshold, and the Avs just hit 70,
Right.
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay, well, there's a huge and like games played obviously are going to change.
There's not even that much to games played. It's just Minnesota.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
and with Minnesota, even if they win every one of those
They're
games,
still 5
still-
back.
they're
yeah.
still trailing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, that's a really, really, really big gap right now.
Yep.
Minnesota looks good though.
Yeah, that game last night was interesting.
Yeah.
Last thing on Nate, I did think it's weird that he went to the Soderberg, the tall aviator, instead of the bubble. With as brutal of an injury as that was, I was expecting him to go full shield, bubble, or cage. I just find it interesting, and I'd love to ask him the next time he's available for media why he chose to do that, because
Yeah.
it seems like a very MacKinnon thing
I
where it's like,
bet
I don't like the
after-
bubble or the cage, which the cage I do get. He's been wearing a visors for
Oh man, those cages now
11
though,
years.
the slimline cages. I mean, I haven't worn a cage in forever, but
Yeah.
the new ones like my kids have, they're super thin. Like
really.
basically my kids are like, you just don't even notice it after, a few seconds.
Yeah, let's say I haven't worn a.
I wonder how
cage
much
for a
of
while.
that is also like if they were in a playoff series and he'd played the next game.
Right.
Would he have
Going to
put
bet
it
he'd
on
been a lot
them?
likelier
Yeah, yeah.
that he's wearing like bubbles on bubbles on bubbles.
Yeah.
Versus
Cage with a
it's now
The double.
you're closer to a month out than you are when it happened. That I wonder how much just the timeline.
The
I'll
only
bet-
thing
I'll
that
bet you
I
Nate
would
would
say
look
is like
dope
the
in a
first
bubble.
few shifts, right? The mental part of it, like
he's
getting
so
into
sick.
it being a little hesitant after taking an injury like that.
Yeah.
It takes a second for you to be like, all right, I've done this my whole life. Like,
Right,
I'll
right.
snap back into it. But those first few shifts will be telling.
That first puck that flies your way off the ice.
And what just makes it tough is that was such a freak
Oh, for
accident
sure.
that, like, yeah, you do have to be a little gun shy because it's like, what are the odds of that fucking happening?
I think Mikko broke his stick for him afterwards.
Snapped into.
Probably on accident, knowing Nico.
That was right before he broke 3 of his own sticks.
True,
Yeah.
true,
So,
true.
That was the only reason he got to the kids.
on the other side of this game, the Dallas Stars in a bit of a weird situation. Obviously, Avs Nation ravenous for Joe Pavelski. Other teams, too. Stars sit in 5th place in the Central Division with 52 points, technically out of a playoff spot with the Ducks at 55 in the wild card spot from the Pacific.
It's amazing to me that the Ducks, who have like, what are you looking at the standings right now? How many more games have they lost than they've won this year?
They've won more games. Well, if you include OTLs.
I do.
So they've lost 26 games. They've won 23.
And they're in a playoff spot.
And granted, they've played 49 games, and the Stars have played 45.
Yeah.
So they have
Stars,
they
the
played
Stars
a lot.
are really kind of in the driver's seat for that spot.
The second
right
wild card
now.
spot. Yeah.
Their season's just been so odd.
Yeah, we were. Enrique and I were talking about this driving over to the bar, that they're just the strangest team because they only live in the extremes, the hots and colds,
Yep.
where
They're either blowing you out.
They
or...
go 2-8, and you're like, they're done. You just don't come back from something like that, like a borderline playoff team. That's catastrophic.
And then
to
they
your
go
season.
8-2.
And then they go 8-0, and you're just like, okay, well, they're back to where they were now, and they've erased that, but they're still sitting at 500 overall. Where you're like, what do you make of them? They're just, it's only extremes. They don't make any sense. And like the good fortune that I guess you could call it good planning, if you want to call it that.
Sure.
With the Braden Holtby thing, because they probably knew Ben Bishop was a long shot to ever come back.
But Holtby working is still.
But going and getting a guy who's been on a steady decline for half a decade, and has not been any good anywhere in multiple cities now. Not even just like, well, he was bad because the Canucks were bad. Like, just hasn't been good in years now.
Wasn't good in those last years in Washington by any stretch.
And then like their starting goaltender plan falls apart, and it's fine.
Like Jake Ottinger is just the guy they hoped he was.
Well, and like Jake Ottinger is a first-round pick and a guy who's been very good in the AHL. It's not surprising to see him have some level of success,
but
in the NHL,
to
but like,
immediately just turn it on when it's him or nothing.
well, and then Braden Holtby like just is, oh well, he's good now. Like after years of not being any good,
He's good
like
now.
oh okay great. Like he just it's the reason I hate talking about goaltenders, because it just doesn't make any sense. Like,
don't make any
sure,
sense,
like
period.
the Stars have a defensive system that insulates their goaltenders a lot, doesn't ask them to do nearly as much, but you still have to go out there and do the job. And it's
Well, and that's
it
what
just doesn't make sense, and it's frustrating to be like, the Avs didn't have a second goaltender for, it felt it was all of last year, and then this year they actually went and had a 1-3 succession plan. And it still got to Justus Annunen, and it was still touch and go. And it's been frustrating to watch teams, like certain teams, just dance between those raindrops.
and it not be a problem for them.
You're
Yeah.
like, come on, just fuck off already.
Well, it's so funny too, because like when you look at it, right, like when you're building a hockey team, the first thing is like you got to have the goalie.
Yeah.
And just to happenstance, like, oh look, these guys fell into our lap and it's working great.
Yeah.
Sucks.
Yeah. Well,
For other teams.
and it's so funny because that's why I think goaltenders. I mean, I shit on Cam Ward a lot on this show. Like goaltenders like Cam Ward. I mean, that guy was no good for the last what?
That's Stanley
Decade.
Cup winning goaltender.
9
Cam
years of his
Ward.
career. But he won one Stanley Cup where he played out of his mind. He was phenomenal on that run.
I mean, we're seeing it right now with Jordan Binnington. where
Right.
it's like,
Well, and that's kind of my thing. Like, what's so odd about goaltenders, and that's why you see so many teams make what is so easy to call a mistake in hindsight, or even, when everyone saw the Jordan Binnington deal, everyone was like, ooh.
Yeah.
Did you guys not see what happened with Ryan Murray?
more than anything, it was like the timing of it, where it was like, you didn't need to do this.
Right.
What are you doing?
And it's funny because goaltending is such an odd position, and
Yeah.
it's so much dictated by confidence and hot and cold and
Rhythm.
going on rhythm. I think is a phenomenal word for it. That you see teams give these contracts or give up these assets to acquire goalies who haven't been good in years because it's, well, he's been able to do it before and maybe he'll just catch that lightning in a bottle. And I think Jordan Binnington and Ryan Murray are great examples, or excuse me, Matt Murray are great examples of, yeah, you just need them to be hot at the exact right moment and they can suck for the rest of the time. But if they just get hot enough, you can do something. And teams talk themselves into all kinds of crazy shit with goaltenders for that.
Well, and it's because it is so hard to find that when you do see it, you're like,
right,
we don't want to let this go.
Yep.
And that is the allure of Darcy Kemper, right?
Well, and this Darcy Kemper has one truly great season in Arizona, and surrounded by like quality play.
I think
Right.
2 if you count the one where he got injured and he was having a great.
and it was like
But that was
30
half a season.
games.
Yeah.
right. But
Yeah, he had one truly as a bona fide starter. Played like got the workload, did the job. One truly great season.
Yeah.
He's age 31. He fetches a first round pick.
yeah,
Because that's just how it is.
he showed
Like,
just enough flashes that
you
you
just
can,
need to show something.
We do have to get things moving along here. I have 3 questions for Blais, though. We did have our trade deadline wish list show the other day.
Yeah.
Who's your number 1 target for the Avs?
Whew.
Everyone here had Giroux or Pavelski, for the record.
I mean, I want to go with Giroux, but like, if Byram's not coming back, do you?
This was part of the conversation.
Do you
because
go
if
out
there's-
and find a defenseman?
If
Which-
there's no Byram, then it changes some
that-
things.
Yeah.
But
My next question, more specifically relating to the Stars, how do you feel about Klingberg as a target for the Avs?
I don't know about that one. I'd
Why?
have to like watch a little bit more specifically.
Fair enough.
I haven't really paid attention to him.
Just forget Klingberg, join the DeHaan gang. All right. Calvin DeHaan is where it's at. Third, of course, Blais's bets.
Hey, I'm back.
back.
I'm
He's-
back.
He's
he's back to bet on Cale Makar to have a power play.
Yeah.
funny that you say that because let's pull this up right here. Why, look at that, Kale with the power play point. Who could have guessed that?
at plus 125,
Right,
though,
it's
like,
ridiculous.
This is what
It's
we're
ridiculous.
saying. This is why it makes sense to do it
That's
every single game.
I'm actually heading
DraftKings is
over to
doing
do that right now.
DraftKings right now is doing that old Geico commercial with the guy with the fisherman with the dollar, like, oh, 125. You gonna do it? I'm like, yes, I'm
Yeah,
gonna do
every
it.
time.
Yeah,
Like, look, 82 kicks at that can. I'll kick the can 82 times.
I mean, again, value is starting to be hard to find, though. Like,
Yep.
you
They're
know, if you're looking
wising
at yeah, they are wising up because they've just been paying out money. If you start looking at it, and you're like, why are we losing so much money on Avs games?
Yeah.
It's because they're scoring all the time. So I
found
got to
out
change
Fun
odds.
job that would be to like break down the analytics of like, why are we losing? Like,
Why are we getting fucking killed
what's
on?
going on?
We're
with
minus
Avalanche?
thousands
you're-
of dollars on the Avalanche
You're-
specifically.
Your third bet here, they finally wised up to. First period over was close to even money
Yeah.
for a lot of the year, and now
Hard to
minus
get it.
135. Yeah,
minus
That
135.
goal in the first 10 minutes the other day was at a minus 195.
Unbettable at this point, basically.
Yeah.
It should be unbettable for the last 2 games in Dallas that I worked. The Stars scored 2 goals in the first 3 minutes each time.
I mean, even shots on goal right now are getting a little crazy. Like,
Yeah.
The odds aren't good anymore.
Kadri's got to get to 4.
Yeah. I mean, Mikko's got to get to 4
Yeah.
as well.
The Avs are learned yesterday from our own Ali Monroy. The Avs are plus 115 to win the President's Trophy, which I was like, I don't know if you're going to get positive money on that again this season, given where they're like kind of
Yeah.
sitting.
If
So
they-
It's just that the East
Well,
is so
the
if they can
top-heavy.
create
top heavy, but they've
Any
got games in
separation from
hand
those
on
guys.
a bunch of those teams
Yeah.
that are right around them. So I was like, given where they're sitting,
The big thing is those teams have to play
Yeah,
each other.
exactly.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
the
yeah,
Avs have
yeah.
to play the West. Where you're looking at the West like,
Great point.
all right, well, they went from cupcakes last year to now the whole conference is a cupcake.
yeah.
one final thing, Blais, your Super Bowl pick. Who you got?
Oh, did we have to? We were almost the only show to
Chat-
avoid that.
chat wanted it.
But so DraftKings does have a nice little up to $10 you can bet, and they give it to you back if your team loses.
Okay.
So I opted into that.
There you
Rams.
go. Rams. All right.
Oh, yeah. Got to go with the hometown.
Von
guy,
Miller all
Von
the way.
Miller.
All right.
Especially after the comments that he's been making while he's out there.
True.
I would be pretty upset if I was the Rams listening to some of that shit he's saying. He's like, yeah, this team's nowhere close to what that Broncos team was. It's like, fuck. It's like, hey, whether it's true or not, that's just a bold thing to say at the LA Rams media day.
I mean, that's a fun game.
That Broncos defense especially was
I'm not arguing that.
a sledgehammer of a cock.
Yeah.
Like,
Jesus Christ.
and they just kept dropping it on Cam Newton. Like that's all. That
Is this a
was. That was
Manscaped
just
read?
No, I'm gonna say.
You know
It
what's
was not
crazy is-
Manscaped, man. It was free balling all day that day.
The people that love Cam Newton was like, that was rigged, right?
Yeah,
You know
and
that was
Cam
rigged.
Newton hasn't been the same since that day.
No.
Whole career's been changed.
Yeah.
All right. Bar's opening up. I need to go get a mimosa before the game starts. So we're gonna wrap this thing up. Enjoy the Avs game. We'll be live post game. You can catch us, hopefully, assuming the game doesn't take forever before the Super Bowl. So we'll be live then. Please tune in then. Until then, we'll talk to you later.